The phone call came on December 15th, just like every year. Mom's voice had that particular tone she used when delivering news she knew would hurt. Maya, we've made a decision about Christmas this year, she said, not bothering with pleasantries. It's going to be adults only. You understand. I understood perfectly. At 29, apparently I still didn't qualify as an adult in their eyes. Not like my brother Derek, who was only 2 years older but had the golden combination of a wife, kids, and a corporate job that impressed dinner party guests. Adults only, I repeated, setting down my coffee cup in what they assumed was my tiny Denver apartment. Yes, well, Derek's children are at such a delicate age, and with Christmas being so magical for them. She trailed off, letting the implication hang. I was the problem. The single daughter who worked in computers. They never bothered to understand what I actually did. The one who wore jeans to family events and didn't have exciting relationship updates to share. Where are you planning to celebrate? I asked, already knowing the answer. Oh, Derek found this incredible place, Aspen Peak Resort. Supposed to be very exclusive. 5-star everything. The kind of place where families can really bond without distractions. Distractions. That's what I was now. Sounds lovely, I said, watching the snow begin to fall outside my floor-to-ceiling office windows. I hope you all have a wonderful time. Mom seemed surprised by my easy acceptance. She'd probably prepared for arguments, tears, guilt trips. Instead, I was giving her exactly what she wanted. No drama, no complications. Well, good. I'm glad you're being mature about this. Derek was worried you might make a scene. No scenes from me. Enjoy your exclusive Christmas. After hanging up, I leaned back in my executive chair and looked out at the pristine slopes of Aspen Peak Resort stretching out below my office. The irony wasn't lost on me. For 3 years I'd been Maya Harrison, the successful but invisible daughter. But to the resort industry, to my employees, to the financial world, I was M.H. Harrison, CEO of Alpine Luxury Holdings. My phone buzzed with notifications. Derek was already posting photos on social media. The family had arrived early, clearly excited about their adults-only Christmas at one of Colorado's most prestigious ski resorts. There was Mom looking elegant in the lobby. Dad trying to look sophisticated with a brandy by the fireplace. Derek's wife Jessica posing with the kids by the massive Christmas tree in the atrium. The captions told the story. Finally, a classy Christmas. And, sometimes you have to leave certain people behind to truly enjoy the holidays. I scrolled through the comments. Distant relatives and family friends hearting the posts, commenting about how beautiful and perfect everything looked. Several people asked where Maya was, and Derek had replied, adults only this year. Some people just aren't ready for this level of sophistication. My assistant knocked on the office door. Ms. Harrison? Your 3 p.m. is here. Jennifer had been my executive assistant for 2 years, and she still looked slightly intimidated every time she entered my office. Not because I was difficult to work with, but because even after all this time, people seemed surprised when they met the actual owner of Alpine Luxury Holdings. I was younger than they expected. Less formal than they imagined. Formal. Thanks, Jen. Also, can you pull up the Harrison family reservation? They should be in the presidential suite. She typed quickly on her tablet. Yes, here it is. Derek and Jessica Harrison, 2 children, plus Richard and Patricia Harrison. Booked through December 30th. They've already charged quite a bit to the room, spa services, dining, ski lessons for the kids. Perfect. Can you get me guest services on the line? Of course. Everything okay with their stay? I smiled. Let's just say there's been a scheduling conflict. While Jennifer connected the call, I watched my family through the lobby security cameras on my monitor. Dad was at the concierge desk, probably booking dinner reservations and bragging about their successful family. Mom was supervising the kids as they pressed their faces against the window watching the snow fall. Derek and Jessica were taking selfies by the fireplace, looking like the picture-perfect family that apparently didn't have room for me. Ms. Harrison? I have Marcus from guest services. Marcus, hi. I need to discuss the Harrison party in the presidential suite. Of course, ma'am. Is there an issue with their stay? Unfortunately, yes. We have a situation that requires us to relocate them immediately. The presidential suite has been double booked. There was a pause. Marcus had been with the resort for 5 years. He'd never known me to make booking errors. Double booked, ma'am? Yes. I'm afraid there was an oversight in our reservation system. We'll need to move them to alternative accommodations tonight. Alternative accommodations. Should I check availability in our luxury suites? Actually, I think our standard mountain view rooms would be more appropriate. They're quite comfortable. Another pause. Standard mountain view rooms were nice, but they were about 4 levels down from the presidential suite. The kind of rooms regular families stayed in, not the exclusive experience Derek had been bragging about. Ma'am, I have to mention, moving a family with children from the presidential suite to standard rooms during peak holiday season, they're likely to be very upset. I understand your concern, Marcus. Please handle it with your usual professionalism. Also, I'll need you to revise their dining reservations. The Pinnacle restaurant is fully booked. Perhaps the Mountain View Cafe would work better for them. The Mountain View Cafe was still excellent food, but it was the family-friendly restaurant, not the award-winning fine dining establishment where Derek had probably been looking forward to impressing his wife. Should I mention the reason for the change? Just explain that there was a booking error that we're correcting. Nothing more. As I ended the call, my phone rang. Derek's number. Maya? Maya, you need to call this ski resort right now. They're trying to kick us out of our suite. Kick you out? That seems extreme. They're saying there was some kind of booking error. They want to move us to a completely different room. This is insane. We paid for the presidential suite. That does sound frustrating. Have you spoken to management? Yes. Some guy named Marcus. He keeps apologizing but says the decision came from the owner directly. The owner? Can you believe that? Like some rich asshole is more important than our family Christmas. I muted the call for a moment to suppress my laugh. That does seem unfair. Unfair? It's discrimination. We're going to leave terrible reviews everywhere. This place is supposed to be exclusive and they're treating us like regular people. Maybe the standard rooms aren't so bad? Maya, you don't understand. Jessica has been planning this Christmas for months. We told everyone we were staying at Aspen Peak Resort. In the presidential suite. Now we're being moved to some basic room like we're nobody special. The irony was almost too perfect. My family had excluded me because I wasn't special enough for their exclusive Christmas. Now they were discovering what it felt like to be treated as ordinary. I'm sure you'll work it out, Derek. You're good at handling these kinds of situations. Will you at least try calling them? Maybe if they hear from someone else. I don't think a call from me would help. I'm sure their owner has good reasons for the change. Derek hung up frustrated. Within minutes, my phone was buzzing with texts from various family members. Mom was appalled at the unprofessional treatment. Dad was demanding to speak to lawyers. Jessica was crying because their perfect Christmas was ruined. But the best message came an hour later from Derek. They moved us, but honestly the new room isn't terrible. And the kids actually like the Mountain View Cafe better. They have a children's menu and the servers are more friendly. Maybe this will work out okay. I leaned back in my chair watching the sun set over the mountains I owned. My family was still here, still celebrating Christmas together, just without the exclusivity they'd been so excited about. They were experiencing the resort the way most families did, with good food, comfortable rooms and friendly service, but without the superiority complex that came with the most expensive accommodations. My personal phone rang. Jennifer had left for the day, so I answered it myself. Maya? This is Mom. Hi, Mom. How's your exclusive Christmas going? There was a long pause. Maya, there's something I need to tell you. We made a mistake. A mistake. About Christmas. About excluding you. Derek was being elitist and your father and I went along with it because we thought it would be easier. But watching the kids tonight, seeing how much they miss their Aunt Maya. Mom, it's okay. You wanted adults-only Christmas. No, it's not okay. And honey, I have to ask you something. When we were checking in today, the staff here kept asking if we were related to M.H. Harrison. They seemed very interested in the connection. Do you know anything about that? I looked out at the slopes, at the lights twinkling across the resort property. What did you tell them? We said we didn't know anyone by that name. But Maya. M.H. Harrison. Those are your initials. Lots of people have those initials, Mom. Maya Elizabeth Harrison. The staff seemed disappointed when we said we didn't know you. And tonight, when they moved us to the new room, the manager mentioned that M.H. Harrison had personally requested we be made comfortable. Why would someone with your initials care about our comfort? I could hear the pieces clicking together in her mind. Mom, are you enjoying the resort? It's beautiful, honey. Truly beautiful. The staff is incredible, the food is amazing, and even in our new room, we have everything we could possibly need. But Maya, I think I've been a terrible mother. Why would you say that? Because I think my daughter might be more successful than I ever bothered to notice. The next morning I made a decision. I put on my best ski outfit and took the private elevator from my penthouse office down to the main lobby. It was Christmas Eve and my family was having breakfast in the Mountain View Cafe. I watched them through the glass doors for a moment. The kids were excitedly talking about their ski lessons. Derek and Jessica looked relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. Mom and Dad were actually listening to the children instead of checking their phones. I walked into the cafe and approached their table. Maya. My 6-year-old nephew practically launched himself at me. Aunt Maya. You're here. Are you staying here too? Something like that, I said, hugging him tight. How's everyone enjoying Aspen Peak? Mom stood up slowly. Maya, we need to talk. Of course. Why don't we take a walk? We left the cafe together, walking through the stunning lobby toward the main windows that overlooked the slopes. Maya, Mom said quietly, are you M.H. Harrison? Why do you ask? Because last night I couldn't sleep. So I went online and looked up M.H. Harrison. Alpine Luxury Holdings. Owner of Aspen Peak Resort, Snowbird Mountain Lodge, Crystal Valley Ski Resort. A portfolio worth over $300 million. She paused. And every photo I could find showed someone who looked remarkably like my daughter. We stopped in front of the massive windows. Outside, early morning skiers were already making their way down the pristine slopes. I started my first business when I was 22, I said quietly. A small software company that helped ski resorts manage their bookings more efficiently. It grew. I sold it and invested in hospitality technology. Then I started buying small resorts that were struggling and turning them around. Maya. For 7 years I've been building this company. And for 7 years, you've introduced me to people as your daughter who works with computers and hasn't figured her life out yet. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We had no idea. I know. I never told you. Do you know why? She shook her head. Because I wanted to know if you loved me for who I was, not what I'd accomplished. I wanted to know if Maya the person was enough, or if Maya the CEO was the only version worth including in family Christmas. Oh honey. When you called to tell me Christmas was adults only, it hurt. Not because I couldn't celebrate with you, but because after 29 years, you still didn't see me as a complete person. You saw someone who didn't fit your image of success. We stood in silence for a moment watching the snow fall. Your brother is going to die when he finds out, Mom said finally. Actually, I think Derek's going to be okay. Did you see him last night at dinner? He looked happier than I've seen him in months. Sometimes being knocked down a peg helps us remember what's actually important. Maya, can you forgive us? I smiled. Mom, you're staying at my resort. Your grandchildren are learning to ski on my slopes. You're eating at my restaurants. I think forgiveness was already built into the situation. But we excluded you. And I included you anyway. That's what families do. Just then Derek appeared looking frantic. Have you seen? Maya. Maya. What are you doing here? I work here, I said simply. You work here? Like in the gift shop or? Derek, Mom said gently, meet your sister M.H. Harrison, owner of Aspen Peak Resort. Derek's face went through about 6 different expressions. Confusion, disbelief, realization, embarrassment, and finally something that looked like pride. You own this place? I own several places like this. The presidential suite thing. Was me teaching you what it feels like to be excluded? How did it feel? Derek sat down heavily in one of the lobby chairs. Terrible. Really terrible. Maya, I'm so sorry. When we said adults only, you meant successful adults. Adults with traditional families and impressive job titles. Yes. And I was wrong. Completely wrong. Derek, do you remember when we were kids and you always wanted to build the biggest snow fort in the neighborhood? Yeah. You never wanted to build it with me. You said I was too small to help with the big projects. Maya. You've been doing the same thing for 20 years. Assuming I was too small for the big projects. Too unsuccessful for the important celebrations. Too different to be part of the family image you wanted to project. Derek looked around the luxury resort lobby, his sister's luxury resort lobby. I've been an idiot. Yes. But you're my idiot big brother. Jessica appeared with the kids, looking confused about why everyone was gathered in the lobby having an intense conversation. Kids, I called out, who wants to see the secret parts of the resort? Their eyes lit up. I spent the next hour giving my family a private tour of Aspen Peak Resort. The kids got to see the kitchen where their meals were prepared, meet the ski patrol team, and visit the top-floor office with the best view of the mountains. Aunt Maya, my niece asked as we stood in my office, "Are you rich?" "I'm successful, honey. But more importantly, I'm happy." "Are you happy because you have a big office?" "I'm happy because I built something I'm proud of. And because even when people don't understand what I do, I know I'm making families like yours have beautiful vacations together." That evening, we all had dinner together in the Pinnacle restaurant, which I'd had Marcus open especially for us. Not because my family deserved special treatment after excluding me, but because I wanted to give them the Christmas they'd actually been looking for all along. "Maya," Dad said over dessert, "I owe you an apology." "You owe me several apologies, but go ahead." "I never asked about your work because I assumed it wasn't important. I figured if you were really successful, you'd be more like Derek, showing off, bragging, making sure everyone knew about your accomplishments. Some people build quietly, Dad. I should have paid attention. I should have asked questions. I should have been proud of you regardless of what you did for work. Should have, could have, would have. The question is what happens now." Derek leaned forward. "Now we do better. Now we include you in everything, not because you're successful, but because you're our sister and daughter and we love you." And, Mom added, "Now we stop making assumptions about people based on what their success looks like to us." I raised my glass of wine. "To Christmas lessons." "To Christmas lessons," they echoed. The next morning, as my family prepared to extend their stay through New Year's, at the family rate naturally, Derek pulled me aside. "Maya, I have one more question." "Shoot." "When you called guest services and had us moved out of the presidential suite, were you trying to teach us a lesson or were you just mad?" I thought about it. Both. I was hurt that you'd excluded me, but I also wanted you to experience what it felt like to be treated as less than you thought you deserved. It worked. And Maya? Yeah. I'm proud of you. Not because you own ski resorts, but because when we hurt you, you found a way to teach us something instead of just hurting us back. That's what big sisters are for. You're the little sister. Not anymore. As I watched my family head out for their final day of skiing on the slopes I'd worked so hard to perfect, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, the satisfaction of being truly known by the people who mattered most. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Thank you for not giving up on us. And thank you for giving us the Christmas we didn't know we needed." I replied, "Thank you for proving that families can learn and grow. See you at dinner." Outside my office window, the snow was falling again, covering the mountain in fresh powder for tomorrow's skiers. Families were making memories on slopes I'd designed, in lodges I'd built, with staff I'd trained to make every guest feel special. But the most important guest was the one I'd almost lost myself. For too long, I'd hidden my success because I was afraid my family loved me less than they loved Derek's achievements. Now I knew the truth. They'd just never learned how to see different kinds of success. This Christmas had taught all of us something valuable. That success comes in many forms and excluding family members is never the answer. That sometimes people need to feel the consequences of their actions before they can change. And all of us learned that the best Christmas gift isn't exclusivity or luxury. It's belonging, understanding, and the chance to grow together as a family. The snow kept falling and I kept working, but now I was working with the knowledge that Christmas next year would be different. It would include everyone. It would celebrate different kinds of success. And it would be held wherever we wanted, because now they knew their daughter and sister could make anywhere feel like home.